Junpei, Clover, and Lotus leapt out of the laboratory, slamming the door shut behind them. All three collapsed against the wall, breathing heavily. Junpei's heart was pounding in his chest, and his whole body felt weak. He inhaled gulps of clear air, and with each one, he could feel his body beginning to calm down. "All right, let's go." They nodded to each other and started off down the hallway. Before long, they found a few new doors, but all of them were locked. Soon they had tried all the doors but one. The final door sat in the corner of the hallway. Junpei grabbed the door handle and was about to pull it open when a voice cried out from behind him. It was neither Clover nor Lotus, but he recognized it. There was no doubt the voice belonged to Jumpy! He spun around. There, at the other end of the hall, Junpei saw human figures running toward him. 3 of them. June, Santa, and 7. They stopped short in front of Junpei and his companions, gasping for air. "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" "What? But we didn't—" Before he could finish, Clover spoke. Guys, could you come over here?" She was standing near the end of the small hallway that branched off to the right. The rest of them ran over to her, curious as to what she'd found. There was something on the wall at the end of the hallway. A map. Map of the ship's interior. It said C deck in the upper left corner. Most likely they assumed it was a map for the floor they were on. Door 7 and Door 8 of the map confirmed what they already knew. Both doors eventually led to the hallway where they had been themselves. In fact, yeah, isn't that what I said? Till we find that 9 door, 0 ain't gonna split us up. We might get separated for a little while, but we'll see each other again. Otherwise, we can't get through door 9. That's how the nonary game works. Junpei looked at the map of the ship's interior again. As he looked more closely, to his surprise and excitement gave way to weariness. One by one, the others saw what he'd seen. What? As one, they all moved back toward the door Junpei had only a moment ago been ready to open. He pulled the map of the ship's interior off the wall and put it in his pocket, followed by the others. What? The 6 of them stood in front of the door, arrayed in a semicircle. Santa stepped forward. He took hold of the door and spoke, without looking back at the other 5. "Ready? I'm gonna open it." They nodded in their silent assent. With a deep breath, Santa threw open the door. They poured through the doorway and into the room. Even without looking around, each of them knew where they were. They were just where the map had said they would be. The same room they'd been in not so long ago. What? The tremendous central hospital room, with empty beds from wall to wall. I see. I believe I understand what you're saying. The 6 of you split into 2 teams and went through doors 7 and 8. You solved the puzzles in the operating room and the laboratory, and then met one another in the hallway after opening your respective locked doors. He looked like anyone might, after only just waking up, but it seemed that his brain was working as well as ever. He had managed to grasp, summarize, and understand each team's report. At any rate, I feel a bit silly for my show of altruism. I'm sure you'll be back for me. I did hope you would come back, but I confess I didn't think you'd be back so soon. Ace shook his head with a rueful smile. Well, we saw each other again, and we ain't dead, so I say that's good enough. 7 smiled. Anyway, I say we get out of this old creepy place. We found the key we need. The key? Ain't that what I just said? I'm talking about the Jupiter key. We found it in the operating room. Here. 7 tossed something small and metallic toward Junpei. He caught it and found that the object was a key. On it, someone had engraved a symbol similar to a 4. He looked over at June, who nodded back. It had to be the Jupiter symbol. I'm gonna let you hold on to it, alright? Yeah, got it. Junpei tucked the new key into his pocket. As a group, they now had 3 keys that had not been used. The Earth key, which had been found in the laboratory. The Saturn key card, which had been found in the kitchen. The Jupiter key, which Seven had just handed to Junpei. Junpei tucked the new keys into his pocket. June spoke up. The Jupiter key is supposed to be for the door at the end of that long, straight hall. Right? Yeah. If the map's right, then it connects to the central staircase. The next to the stairs... Wait! They were the first words anyone had heard out of Clover in quite some time. Her face suggested they weren't going to be very happy words. What about door 3? Look. You saw the map, right? It's the same as 7 and 8. It just lead us back to the big hospital room. There's no point seeing what's on the other side of that door. There is a point! At least there is for me. There were tears in her eyes, but she glared at Seven as hard as she could just the same. She looked very much like a frightened puppy. There wasn't a man alive who could have resisted those eyes. Seven looked everywhere in the room except at Clover and muttered and coughed apologies under his breath. Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. Snake might be on the other side of the door. Clover nodded once. The next person to speak was Ace. Very well. I'll be coming with you then. I've had a nice long rest. I think it's time I was up and about again. So, Seven, you'll help me, won't you? Huh? Me? Junpei did the calculations quickly in his head. 41712 3. Looked like Seven was doing them too. At last he gave up. Damn. Well, I guess that's how it's gotta be, so I'm going with you, huh? Yes, you are. Alright, let's get moving. So it was decided that Clover, Ace, and Seven would discover what lay beyond door 3. Okay, we're heading out. Be careful. Whoa, didn't think I'd be hearing that from you, Lotus. Don't let it get to your head. I'd be in trouble if the 3 of you bought it. The rest of us can't open door 9. Truth comes out. Seven nodded as if this answer made much more sense. Pulled the lever on the red. Okay, let's go. The door opened and Ace, Clover, and Seven jumped through it. 6, 7, 8. After exactly 9 seconds, the door closed noisily. Alright, we should get moving too. Huh? Get moving? Where are we going? Everyone except Lotus seemed rather confused. Well, it would be a waste of time to just sit around, wouldn't it? Let me explain. I get it. We're going to see if we can get anywhere interesting with the Jupiter key. Yes. If we're lucky, we might find Snake. They were at the end of the hallway, lined by individual hospital rooms. The Jupiter symbol was engraved on the keyhole. All right, Junpei. Open it, if you please. Yeah, on it. Junpei pulled the Jupiter key out of his pocket and slid it into the keyhole. He twisted. With a nice sharp click, he felt the door unlock. All right, ready, guys? Junpei's companions nodded. He nodded back, then slowly and quietly opened the door. Inside was exactly what he expected to see from the map of the ship's interior. They were in a tremendous hall, almost like a ballroom, with a massive central staircase. Great, back to the beginning. You sure this is a good idea? What do you mean? Well, we already searched every inch of this room, didn't we? I'm asking you if there's any reason we came back here. Of course there's a reason. Man, sometimes I can't tell if you're smart or just lucky, huh? This. Junpei pulled out 2 things of his pockets. The Saturn keycard and the Earth key. Santa cocked his head to one side like an inquisitive bird and looked at them. After several long moments, during which it became apparent that Santa had no idea what the cards meant, June took pity on him. Don't you remember, Santa? On C deck, where we are now, there was a big elevator behind the stairs, remember? Next to the elevator, there was a card reader with the Saturn symbol on it. And on A deck, on the door to the left, there was a keyhole with the Earth symbol, I think. So the two keys that Jumpy has should let us use the elevator and the door on A deck, huh? Yes, that's right. June smiled, pleased with herself. So did Santa. All right, I got it. Let's get started then. What do you say we split into 2 teams? Lotus and I will search the Earth one, so you two use Saturn, right? Sounds good. Junpei handed the Earth key to Santa. They decided that their initial search should be brief, only 10 minutes. They meet back near the staircase once they were done. Junpei and June headed for the elevators. Sure enough, there was a card reader bolted to the wall next to the elevator door. He lined up the Saturn key card and swiped it through the reader. A light on the upper left corner blinked to life. Great. Looks like it's working now. Alright, now how do we call the elevator? There was a single button to the right of the elevator door. On the button was an upside-down triangle, the universal symbol for down. There didn't appear to be an up button. Junpei pushed it. He didn't have much of a choice. Well, that's terrifying. It opened! Look, Jumpy! June's voice was excited, but Junpei could hear a tinge of anxiety. Sweet, it opened. Let's get going. He grinned at June and stepped toward the door. As he was about to step foot in it, he felt a hand on his arm. Oh, wait. What? I'm not really... Oh, gosh. Junpei was at something of a loss. What could she possibly be so frightened of? June was probably afraid of being locked up alone with a boy. They could only go down. I don't think she's afraid of being with Junpei. So, I think it's this. She was afraid because the elevator only pointed down. That meant, of course, that the elevator couldn't go any higher than the floor they were on. As he thought about it, Junpei realized he hadn't seen elevators on A or B decks near the central staircase, all of which meant that the elevator could only convey to them the lower decks, and the floor below the one they were on, D deck, should be completely submerged. That meant... Hey, wait a minute. This elevator came up from somewhere under us, right? Well, yes, I guess it did. It didn't open right away after you pressed the button. There was a motor noise like it was moving and then it opened. Yeah, exactly. Yes. So take a look inside. Junpei jerked his head toward the interior of the elevator. It's not wet at all, is it? The walls and even the floor are totally dry. Oh, you're right, they are. She looked around the elevator, slightly embarrassed. Well, let's test it. Test it? Yeah, watch this. Junpei put one foot in the elevator and bent around the corner of the door until he could see the floor buttons. There were only two, E and C. He pushed the E button and jumped out of the elevator. The door slid shut and they heard the grinding of the motor as the elevator car moved down. A few moments later, they heard the sound of the elevator door grinding open several floors below them. Junpei nodded to June and pressed the elevator button again. A few moments later, the elevator returned. The door slid open, and just as Junpei had expected, there was no water to be found. See? Junpei couldn't resist puffing out his chest a little bit. June, however, still looked confused. What does that mean? How can the E deck be safe if D deck is full of water? Well, here's what I think. The elevator shaft in D deck must be watertight, and separated from wherever the ship's been punctured. Here, let me show you. He pulled out his notebook and pen and sketched a rough illustration. See? I see. So that's why the ship hasn't sunk. The shape of the inside keeps it from all filling with water. Yeah, I think that's what's going on. Junpei continued talking as he closed the notebook and slipped it back into his pocket. So I'm gonna go down and check it out. You stay here, alright? But... Come on, just do it, alright? He gave June's shoulder a reassuring squeeze and hopped onto the elevator. Damn it, I'm going alone. Pushed the E button and the door began to close. June looked more worried, her eyes darting back and forth as if she was trying to make a decision, when suddenly... I'm coming with you! Huh? At the last possible moment, June dashed forward and turned sideways just in time to slip through the gap between the closing doors. Junpei jammed his finger against the open button. But it was too late. The door had shut, he and June were in the elevator, and it was heading down to E deck.